Today we are going to understand the architecture for a secure hybrid network. Well, it's not a big deal to create a hybrid network. We all know that there is an on-premises, there is uh, Azure, and we can create a VPN, or with the help of ExpressRoute, we can create a connectivity between uh, both the environment, Azure and on-premises. We can say the hybrid network, but here we are going to architect the absolutely secure hybrid network, and we would have all the control over the network traffic. Hello everyone, my name is Arun and let's get started. So let's see the few examples where this kind of topology is needed. Okay. As I've mentioned here, just trying to save some time, so I have already wrote down all the things that we need to talk about in this video. The very first thing is the hybrid application, okay, where the workloads run partially on the on-premises and partially on the cloud. Those kind of applications where we need the granular control over the traffic flowing through the on-premises to the Azure and vice versa. And app that must audit outgoing traffic to prevent public disclosure of private information. These are few examples. And these are the examples where you will encounter it every other day or in every other project, because all the commercial systems wants to have a granular control over traffic, and they don't want outgoing access to everyone, or they want everything to go through the on-premises, not from the individual VMs and things like that. So in order to achieve such an architect or such an architecture, uh, what all things we needed, let's talk about those things, then we'll see the architecture. I have the architecture in place right here. We'll talk about it once we'll through with all the information. For example, requirement. We need the encrypted traffic between on-prem and Azure. To do that, we have a VPN gateway. We can do that. So we need VPN gateway. We can also have an isolated pipeline to the Azure for the connectivity, like ExpressRoute. We can utilize that as well. Okay, now we need to create a DMZ network, a perimeter network, so that we can control over all the traffic. So we're going to use Azure Firewall. Now, these two things are done. Now let's come to the third. Now, workload segregation is needed and traffic control even in the workload. For example, we will place the web servers in the web subnet, app servers in the app subnet, and database in the database. And there would be absolute segregation of these subnets, and they can talk to each other the way we want. We will control that with the help of NSGs. So we need subnets and NSGs, and their traffic flow will be controlled by us with the help of NSGs. And these tiers would be segregated with the help of subnets. Now, we also need to divert the traffic the way we want. You want to have the internet access from the on-premises with the help of NATing. So whatever internet access request we have on the Azure, it should be diverted to the on-premises. Or if on-premises people wants to access the web servers from on-premises, so it should also go through the Azure Firewall, things like that. So we need to control the traffic, so that's why UDRs are required. Now, we also need to log in on the Azure VMs required. So for that, we have ExpressRoute and VPN connectivity, and RDP ports are open. We need to open it to get into it. And we can also use Bastion. In case your VPN goes down, you can still manage your Azure infrastructure with the help of Azure Bastion server, which is highly managed. Okay. Now, we need to think about this part where we have to inbound traffic from internet that we need to control with the help of DNet rule on Azure Firewall. Okay, destination address would be the public IP address of the firewall instance, and translated address would be the private IP address within the virtual network. Okay, so these kind of rules we need to configure on the Azure firewall. And all the outbound network internet traffic through on-premises network using VPN and route to internet using NAT. So it prevents the data leakage. Nothing will go to the internet and nothing will come from the internet to us. Everything would be controlled by firewall and all the rules. Okay, there is only one point from where we can go to the internet, that is from the on-premises. So for that we have these kind of ruling defined. We can also control the access of the applications. For example, we can only give the access to google.com on certain VMs, for example web, not for the app or databases, or to all of the machines only to the Google or anything like that which is utmost required. Okay, now we have scalability and availability in this particular architecture. Gateway SKUs, we can increase the SKUs as per our requirement. We have the gateway SKUs for the VPN and the express route as well. For availability, we have both the connectivities in place, express route and VPN. If express route goes down, you can utilize VPN, and if VPN goes down, you can still use the Bastion to manage your Azure infrastructure. Okay, now let's talk about a little bit on the cost. Azure Firewall. Well, we deploy it as a shared solution and used by multiple workloads, even on-premises using the Azure Firewall, uh, Azure resources using the Azure Firewall, things like that. So multiple workloads are using it, so it's highly cost effective. And we have two kind of pricing here: fixed rate or data processed per GB. Okay, we have Azure Bastion on which, because of that, we don't need PIP, means public IP on VMs. It's absolutely minimal charges as compared to Jump Server. It's highly available, built-in security, and managed by Azure. You need not to do any kind of patches or manageability and things like that. We have to place in the gateway, so take care of those charges as well, and that would be depends on the SKUs that we are using. Now, VNet is free and VM communication inside the VNet is free. So is the internal load balancer. So these are the few things that we talked about regarding the network DMZ or architecting a secure hybrid network. Now let's go through the architecture diagram here. I have borrowed it from the Microsoft. So you can see we have on-premises network right here. This is the VPN device in the on-premises. It is connected to Azure VPN gateway. It requires a separate gateway. Okay, so this is VPN. We can also have express route. We talked about that. Now, before we go ahead about these information, let's talk about Azure infrastructure. You see, we talked about the subnets. It's a subnet segregation. We have gateway subnet, we have firewall subnet, we have web tier, business tier, and data tier. Okay, these are all the siders defined. These are the VMs inside the web, and this is the load balancer. This is the load balancer, which is taking care of the load balancing. Also, you can do the port forwarding and things like that. These are the internal load balancer as well in the business tier and the data tier. Okay, now business tier can talk to the data tier, and web tier can talk to the business tier. This cannot talk to the database, or no one else can talk to the database. We can define it inside the NSGs. Okay, only business or the logical tier can talk to the database, which is required. Okay, things like that we can configure in the NSG. We do not we can also shut down the entire internet, but in order to run a couple of services in Azure, like log analytics or backup and storage, these kind of things, we need to open certain ports. We can do it if it is allowed by the customer. There are other things that we can use like service endpoints or private link to do that. Okay, so that's how these are locked down. That's how these three are locked down. Now you see there is a route. These are the UDRs. Anything requested to go to web tier. This is the IP address of the web tier. It should go to the Azure Firewall. Now, Azure Firewall will think, is there a rule defined? Is this traffic coming from the on-premises? If there is a rule defined and it matches the traffic is coming from on-premises, this rule is there, only then it will divert it to the web tier, else it will block the traffic. Okay. Now, Azure Virtual Network, they can talk to each other until we put the NSG and deny the fact. Now, if web tier wants to talk to anything else, it will also go to the Azure Firewall. You see, this is the next hop. So these are the route defined, and this is the Bastion subnet that we can utilize. We talked about the Bastion subnet as well. Okay. Now, these UDRs route in the gateway subnet right here blocks all user requests other than those received from on-premises, right? We talked about it. And route passes allowed requests to the firewall. These requests are passed to the application if they are allowed by the firewall rules. So this is somewhat the reference architecture of the highly secure hybrid network that we can do. Usually what people do, they use NVAs. Since this Azure Firewall is pretty new, earlier it is all about NVAs, that's third party like Cisco, ASA, and Barracuda. People use that and define all the rulings inside that firewall. You can utilize Azure Firewall, which is cheaper as compared to NVA, and you can secure your network with the help of this kind of architecture. Well, thank you for watching, and you have a good day.